Hey everybody, we are covering 5 Diablo 4 tips. These are going to be my favorite tempers for leveling. This is ones that are available for everybody, so no matter what class you choose, you will have access to that, and they are in many cases, especially early, some of the best you can do. Later, when you're filling out your build, yes, you might want to switch these out for some of the specific ones for your class, but early on, these are going to help you get through a lot of the stuff very, very fast. And we even have some bonuses at the end that will show you how to get even more power and how to get resources when you need them. Don't miss those, but let's get going. The first one is Elemental Surge. So let's just come in and we'll look at them directly. Here we are. We're going to go to Tempering and we'll leave them all open. The very first one is in here, Elemental Surge. This is best in World Tier 1 or 2, whatever you're leveling in when you first start. As soon as you get Tempering and you can get this on one of your weapons, it's going to do a ton of damage. It is recommended generally that you put on a double hand because whatever damage here doubles on a two-handed weapon. So as soon as you get a strong, rare two-handed weapon for any class, you can throw this on and do an incredible amount of damage. Yes, it's on a lucky hit chance, but the amount of damage when it does pop is huge and can let you clear Capstone 1 very, very easily. So this is the first one I recommend early in the game. So the next one is another great one that we can use in early game to just help us get more defense, cover those capstones, kind of get through them. But it also does continue to play all the way to the end of the game. A lot of builds use this particular one. So let's jump in and look at what options it gives us. It is Worldly Endurance. So this gives us a chance at life, at total armor, or dodge chance. The first two are the ones we're really looking at. Early game, max life is going to matter the most. Later, the percentage of armor when you have very low armor, it's not that big of a deal. In some builds, I guess it could matter, but life is probably going to be a lot better for you in the early World Tier 2 into World Tier 3. And for many builds, just run it all the way to World Tier 4, just getting a lot of coverage so you can take some serious damage. So the next one is one that I absolutely enjoy. I just love blitzing through this game, killing tons of monsters, and this helps me do it. That is coming down to mobility. No matter what class you are, getting a little bit more speed is going to matter a lot. The ability to roll more movement speed, you can do it on your boots. You can do it on your amulet. Rolling this. There is a second one that's kind of similar thing for the motion, but it's targeted to the class. So the class have different options. If I'm looking for movement speed, I actually may choose this one because it only has 3 options with movement speed being one of them. So I have a higher chance. But if you don't have the class specific or it has 4 as well, you can always come and make sure that you're doing natural motion to just start moving through the game crazy fast. So this next one can be a lot of fun. It can help you take down bosses more easily. It can help do a lot of crowd control on mobs. But let's jump in and look at that, especially if you're doing a lot of firing. If you do a lot of attacks, you're using a basic skill, and it's a really great thing that can constantly apply. And so when we come to utilities, we come to Worldly Fortune. So this gives you different options to basically cause some sort of ailment to the monster that slows them down, immobilizes them, stuns them, or freezes them. In many cases, builds can utilize this once they're in one of these states. You can apply more damage. I think these all count to vulnerable in general, so you're applying more damage that way too. But when you do these on bosses, it starts to add up that blue bar until they're frozen. It can help you get through hard, difficult bosses by being able to stop them from moving for a while so you can just clear a ton of life. This gives you that choice. And then in mobs, if you're hitting a bunch, it can be slowing down and stopping them instead of having all the monsters be able to rush on you. So the next one is the one I think about when I feel a little squishy throughout. I'm trying to get my build together, but it's not quite coming together. I will check a few things. I'll check armor, I'll check life, but we already talked about Worldly Endurance. That's where you can fix those issues. But when it comes to, if you're still getting killed and those are relatively high or as high as you can make them right now, then the second place to check is going to be your resistances. Natural resistance gives us the ability to roll any of the resistances. So whatever we're missing, we have an opportunity to kind of roll 1 of 5, whatever we need. So as we look, we have the certain resistance. We can see which ones are not capped. I don't have fire capped and I don't have shadow capped. This might give me another choice on how to do that, especially in early. And right now I have an end game build and I'm just like trying to tweak every little bit to be maximized. A little bit harder, but when you're leveling, this is a great way just to add a big boost. If you have fire resistance at 12 and you want to go take down the maiden, getting a big boost of resistance just for fire can make it way more possible to do and not worry about getting one shot all the time. When you're looking at going to Capstone 2, that's when you're leaving from World Tier 3 into 4, then it is really good to make sure that these are as high as you can make them. I recommend at least 40 to 50 will give you a lot more options for taking the damage that's going to come up, and especially going after the boss at the end So this is how you can do that. But a lot of these, as we look through them, whatever problems you're having, you can start to fix them through using the right temper. So the next couple bonuses I do want to mention, because they are great in later game as you level into World Tier 3, go up to Capstone 2, and into World Tier 4. These may even be critical pieces to your final build, depending on what you're trying to target. Early on, obviously, we have the Elemental Surge, but if later on, when you want more controllable, consistent damage, you're starting to get some of your build online and you just want to do, hey, I know I'm doing this. How do I get more damage here? This is going to be your best choice. We're going to come into offensive. We're going to go to natural finesse. And this gives us the ability to do straight damage, crowd control damage, close enemy damage, or distant damage. Whichever one is what you're doing mostly. So if you are in the thick of it, you want close. If you are shooting from afar, distant. That's going to give you some of your biggest boosts. Usually those are the ones we choose. If you're doing a ton of crowd control and you know you're triggering all the time, whatever you're killing is crowd control, then you can easily go after crowd control, and then there's general damage. But as you can see, you get higher damage for being more specialized. Start with a lot for distant. And so if you are staying out of the fray more further back and shooting in, that can get you pretty crazy powerful very, very early. So the second thing for damage is we're going to come down here to Worldly Finesse. This is more specialized damage. This is going to be adding more damage to critical strikes or vulnerable or overpower or ultimate. They can add up a lot for different builds depending on what you're targeting, but do know what it is. What are you leaning into? Do you do a lot of critical strike chance on your rings and your weapons and such? Are you doing primarily vulnerable damage through your skill tree? What are you targeting? Are you doing overpower? Is your ultimate a thing that you actually use a lot? And if you had more damage, that would crush. Usually the cooldown on this is a lot, and it'd be better to get damage elsewhere. But this is another way to get specific power for your build if you don't feel like you're strong enough. So we covered how to get more power, but there is another issue that comes up as you go. It's not something you need super early game, but as soon as you start trying to get your build online, you may not have the right aspects. You may not have the right skill points yet to really get the resources you need to use the ability you're trying. And so how do we get resources? Again, they give us a great option. We come to resources, worldly stability. So worldly stability is going to give us either resource regeneration, it's going to lower the cost of the stuff that we spend, or it gives us a lucky chance to it. If you're doing builds that do a lot of lucky chance, that can be pretty great. But I generally look for the resource regeneration. I want to know that my resources are filling up fast enough. Both can, if I get either one though early when I'm like really looking for resources, having the cost reduction or having that generation, they are valuable to have. I have found places like where I had the fireball build I just did this season, I was aiming for the regeneration or the generation, and I got the cost reduction. That was actually perfect. It allowed me to hit like a number of fireballs extra or an extra fireball that made all the difference. It was like enough to clear everything at the level that I was playing. So use these as you need them, kind of debug whatever's missing in your build. Use some of those early strategies to get through Capstone fairly early, and you will just have a great time leveling, always feeling like you have a choice to do something that can make it better. Now, if you want some additional tips, here are my absolute favorite leveling tips. They are going to help you out a ton.